this is the City of New Brunswick Planning Board meeting of September 9th, 2019. So I'll start with the roll call.
Larry Barber?
Yes.
Chris Delatella?
Yes.
Suzanne Ludwig-Sikora? Manuel Castaneda? Bob Cardica?
Here.
George Shadid? John Petrolino?
Present.
Dale Vickers?
Here.
Yolita Checo?
Here.
Jeff Crum.
Public announcement.
But I did good practice. Please be advised that the notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been complied with and satisfied, and that the annual notice, which gave sufficient notice of the time, place, and conduct of all public meetings of the Planning Board of the City of New Brunswick, has been filed with the City Clerk and placed in an appropriate bulletin board in the lobby of City Hall, 78 Bayard Street, New Brunswick, New Jersey, and has been transmitted to the official newspaper of the City of New Brunswick, named Home News Tribune and Star Ledger.
Salute to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So the first item on your agenda is under section 5. It's the resolutions of memorialization, and there's only one. The resolution is on the table for you. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped right over that, didn't I? Right, so we're on to 4. That's the minutes of the board's previous meeting. The minutes of the April 8th meeting are available for you.
Need someone to make a motion, takes up the minutes. Yeah, I was not here also.
I don't think I can make that motion.
You, Robert, Daniel, Suzanne, Dale.
It would be best if
Dale
someone
and
was
Bob
here.
Cardica were the only people who were here.
That's one.
Yeah.
Motion
Oh, no.
to accept the minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, second.
Can you get a vote on
All
this?
in favor?
Without-
Aye.
All opposed?
You can't vote, if these
I don't
folks
think
can't
you
vote,
vote
they're not here.
here for the meeting.
I think they can't for the minutes. I think they just can't for the resolutions.
You can vote to adopt the minutes
Yeah.
if you weren't here.
Okay.
You can't move to.
You can't make a motion.
Can't make a motion to move them, but you can vote.
Okay.
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 So moving on to number 5, the resolutions. There's one resolution available for you. It's for 25 French Street, 150 Somerset Street, R.W.J. Barnabas Health South Building Expansion. And that resolution is on the table for you. I think it's actually in your packet.
And in this case, the only 2 people who can vote are Dale Vickers and Bob Cardica.
Can you pass a resolution with only 2 votes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I guess I'll move.
We get a second?
Second.
There you go.
There's only 2 people.
That's it. Now you can roll call.
Yeah. Dale Vickers? Bob
Yes.
Cardica?
Yes.
All right. Resolution approved.
There are no public hearings on the agenda tonight, and the only item under A would be amendments to the Jersey Handy redevelopment area. And we'll turn that over to Mr. Dominguez, who prepared a memo to explain that to you.
Good evening, everyone. I hope that you had a few moments either earlier today or over the weekend or before the meeting to review the Jersey Handy redevelopment plan amendments that we are proposing. In short, the city is proposing an increase in floor area ratio from 1.2 to 1.4 4 to better accommodate parking on the site as per the code, the parking structure counts against floor area ratio. We are recommending a change in building heights to be more comparable to the 2005 redevelopment plan version, which had a staggered height of 40 on the front side, Jersey Avenue frontage, and then elevated to 80 feet on the interior of the site. What we would be looking for here would be a change to 60 and 90, respectively. In 2011, the amendment that was passed there created a flat 40-foot height across the entire project area. So this would be bringing back the stepped measure. We would be additionally adding the residential parking requirements back into the plan. They were removed from the 2011 plan, though for reasons unknown, technically it would be we would be bound by RSIS parking standards from the state regardless, and it basically just reiterates those same standards, but we would like to put them back into the plan. And finally, we would be changing the depth at which the staggering on the project occurs. Previously, if I am remembering correctly, it was 40 feet for the first 100 feet from the Jersey Avenue frontage, and then elevated to 80 at 100 feet. In this case, it would be 60 from the Jersey Avenue frontage, and then after 225 feet of lot depth, would be able to increase to 90 feet. And those would be the changes as proposed by the city. The city's redevelopment authority, which is the housing authority, redesignated this redeveloper back in December of this year with an approved concept plan that reflects the changes that we're proposing to amend to the plan today. So as such, the plan would necessitate these amendments for the development to carry forward. And that's a general gist of the changes that we're proposing. No use changes. Yes?
Other than the parking error that apparently was made in the past with regard to the residential parking, and the slight change in floor area ratio that you're proposing here, what's the reason for the proposed change?
To better conform the concept plan that was adopted by the housing authority into conformance with the parameters of the redevelopment plan.
So this isn't at the request of a specific
Developer.
No, the designated redeveloper did ask for these changes after the concept plan was approved by the housing authority, which is their right under redevelopment law. They can, once designated redeveloper, it is more than okay for them to ask for changes to avoid having to fight for variances.
So just so the board's aware, the typical process when you start these redevelopment areas, when they're originally adopted, is that sometimes you adopt a larger area not knowing who the future developers, redevelopers are going to be in them, because you want to start redevelopment in a blighted area, you want to start the process to be going. As time goes on and the redevelopment plans are sort of out there, new redevelopers come around and have revised plans that they might be interested in working with. So the redevelopment plans are always sort of in a state of being updated and amended to try to reflect
Market
trends, things like that. And the process here it begins with the city council, although technically it didn't begin with the city council yet, based on the way your city council operates. The process of amending that redevelopment plan really is a city council operation that's referred to the planning board, because the planning board has the ability to review those things, have a hearing on them, recommend master plan consistency, sort of be the board that sort of hears and reviews changes. This is essentially part of your zoning ordinances. So this is something that the city council is going to be considering, and they're looking for comments, input, recommendations that you might have.
Really no different than when we review the master plan.
incorporate the zoning ordinance and like,
It's a typical process.
Then we send it back, and we give our
Exactly.
opinion back, our recommendation back.
Okay, so if the board has any comments or questions, you can have that discussion, we should open it to the public afterwards.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Anyone from mine?
Does anybody from the public have any questions?
Good evening, members of the board. Charles Cradaville.
You swear affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir. Proceed. Good evening, Charles Cradaville, New Brunswick today. I have some concerns about this particular site, and I would hope that you would be open-minded about the needs of the city and not rush a vote tonight on this. Just for some context, the developer that you rightly point out requested this change be made has been sitting on this site for some time. This is the sort of vacant land next to the Walgreens shopping center. And this has been a site that's been a sight for sore eyes, not a positive thing for the neighborhood. This owner happens to be a major corporation, a large developer that has properties, large properties all over the state of New Jersey and in other states as well. Florida is one of them. They could have made good on the proposals that they brought to this board and to the council in the past and secured favorable treatment from the city government and a long-term tax exemption for the site. What was promised was not delivered. The original plan promised a supermarket. The original plan promised housing. The bank that was built on the site never opened and has no plans to open. It's just an empty bank. The Walgreens that was once 24 hours, a nice addition to the neighborhood, is now no longer open 24 hours. I believe they close at 11, maybe midnight. And so I don't think that this developer should be getting the favorite treatment. I don't think the needs of the neighborhood should be put behind this. And let me get right to the point about what I'm talking about, is that this neighborhood needs, more than anything, a school. New Brunswick schools are overcrowded despite some impressive new projects that have come online in the past decade or so. We have a situation in the 5th and 6th wards where we have kind of the Lincoln Elementary School right in the middle of an area where there's very few users, right? It's a neighborhood dominated by college students who don't often have children. Then you have this area that we'll say, Jersey Avenue, French Street corridor, that has lots and lots of children, but no more school. Once upon a time, there was a school called the Washington School at the corner of Lewis and French, and it was before my time, but that building's no longer there. It was actually taken over by Robert Wood Johnson. And the reason I'm here tonight and very concerned about this is because I've heard about plans that Robert Wood Johnson has to take over, purchase the Lincoln Annex School, a school that just opened 3 years ago. Again, part of the efforts to address the overcrowding, to address the older schools that are not meeting the needs of our kids. This was, of course, a Catholic school campus transformed into a public school and opened and has been successfully open for 3 years now. But I'm hearing from sources that are reliable, and including people on the Board of Education, that discussions are happening right now for the sale of that school. And I'm told that, part of that sale has to hinge on a site being found for a replacement school. And as I'm sure you're all very familiar with our city in this particular area, you know that it's very built up. There's not a lot of area to build a large campus like an elementary school that we would need. There's very few areas, in fact, where this is a possibility. And one of the last remaining areas where this is a possibility is the area to which you're being asked to vote on this amendment to the plan at the behest of a developer. And just so happens that this developer, the owner of this company, happens to also be the chairman of the board of Robert Wood Johnson Barnabas Health. So I don't think that you should give him what he's asking for until the city can get what it needs for our kids. At the end of the day, this neighborhood does need a school. Ask the school district, we've got overcrowding. If we lose the Lincoln Annex School, it's only going to get worse. And I think that you should give strong consideration to adopting amendments to this redevelopment plan that would allow for a public school on this site. And to the extent that the city is negotiating or working with this person as a designated redeveloper, I think that their vision should be revisited to include something that meets the needs of the community. And so I hope that you will put the brakes on this amendment as it's drafted tonight, and come back in the future with a plan that can address this important need. And I'll just close, if I can, just ask a question, since that's how you opened it up to me. Is there anybody here that's familiar with the situation involving the sale of the Lincoln Annex School? Is there anyone who can confirm that this is happening, or who's doing the negotiating?
I think the question has to be limited to what's on the agenda tonight, which is the amendment to the redevelopment plan.
Okay, I'll hold it for the public comment then.
So if it's questions on something else, we have to address it just the amendment.
Well, in that case, just please take into consideration my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
I want to make a motion.
and just to be clear about what the council is looking for, the planning board is not adopting an amendment to the redevelopment plan tonight. The planning board is being asked to make a recommendation to the council as to this change. So since it's essentially an ordinance change, the council is the only body that can make that change. Just being referred to the planning board for recommendations, comments, and consistency with your master plan.
And if I could add, the vote is as to the amendments proposed here, not possibly other amendments or speculative amendments that are brought up. It's only limited to what is being proposed here, which I think are I'm going to say 3 sections that were discussed.
I just asked about the zoning of the lots that are involved here.
Okay. So the underlying zoning below the redevelopment area is for community commercial and borders up against light industrial on the far end of the site. The redevelopment overlay zoning is for also a type of community commercial that allows for residential and office and commercial space with some possible very light industrial uses on the periphery. And light industrial could mean anything from laboratories and things of that nature. So things that might be considered more clean industrial, nothing that would be polluting per se.
Thank you.
And for clarity, the proposal, as I understand it, to the housing authority, the concept plan that was adopted would have the front, the 60-foot part that would abut Jersey Avenue would be mid-rise residential with office and parking on the rear interior side of the site.
So are we,
Does anybody have any other questions? Any other questions about this?
So the motion would be
Yeah,
to
motion.
Recommend?
motion would be to recommend to the council whatever you'd like to recommend.
Second.
Larry Barber?
Yes.
Well, your last one. Bob Cardigan?
Yes.
John Petrolino?
Yes.
Dale Vickers?
Yes.
Billy Pacheco?
Yes.
Chris Delta?
Yes.
Okay.
Other matters of interest to the public?
Yes, so.
Are you open to public or?
This is other matters of
Yeah,
interest.
you can do it. Yeah, that's fine. I have a discussion item for you afterwards.
Okay.
Good evening once again, Charles Craddock, New Brunswick today. I'll just to follow up on the item you just passed. I'd encourage people to come to or maybe watch the September 25th meeting of the New Brunswick Housing Authority Board, because they still have not adopted a redevelopment agreement with this particular redeveloper, and that's supposed to happen at that meeting. It's been delayed for some time, and so hopefully this will be a chance for us to learn more about what exactly this developer wants to do. And again, I encourage you to look at the developer's track record, not just at this site, but at other sites, and consider that when they ask for things in the future. I did want to ask my question about, is anybody here familiar with who's doing the negotiating with Robert Wood Johnson? I know there's a representative of the mayor's office here. No, so it's unclear who's doing negotiating. Okay. I think that there is a need for a school. I hope you agree with me, and I hope you take that into consideration as we move forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there any other?
Just make sure it's taken.
Sure. So just under discussion items, just want to let the board know that tentatively we are expecting to have an October and a November planning board meeting. We have items that are in the pipeline and should be ready to go for October and November.
Particularly because we have to designate this formally as a hearing at this planning board. On November 11th, we are going to be, part of our meeting will be a hearing for an amendment to the city's master plan. Last year, or possibly the year before, led by the Environmental Commission, we were able to get done a municipal public access plan that was, I believe, vetted by the state, among others, and we seek to add it to our master plan. We would be amending it to the open space portion of our master plan. And so we would be having a hearing on that date. Well, we would be having the meeting as scheduled, but part of a component of our November planning board meeting would be a hearing for that amendment to the master plan.
Okay.
Just letting you know, so we're going to be on October, November, so make sure let everybody know to be here with the holidays and everything. So. All right.
Is there anything else? A motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?